Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So yeah, the inevitable happened. My 10-bolt blew up. Now what happened last night, I tried to do my first burnout ever with the supercharger. Never had a problem before I put the blower on. But first attempt, this happened. As you can see, that is a shitload of wheel hop. The second this happened, it freaked me out. I let off the gas. If you could see, the car kind of rolls back at first because I was kind of on like an incline. So as the car was rolling back, I revved it up. I was gonna dump it. I dumped it as the rev came down, so it didn't have enough gas. And then I just put my foot into it, and I think I bogged it. And then it just started hopping like crazy. And if you look at the aftermath, you could see on the right side where the tire was actually grabbing, the pavement was really, really rough. So I think that right wheel was kind of getting more traction than the left, and that's what caused all that hopping to happen. I never had a problem with wheel hop before, nowhere near like that. I mean, once I went to the lower control arm relocation brackets, that was pretty much a thing of the past. But after this happened, I repositioned the car, and then I was able to do this. And I did a pretty good burnout, drove the car home, no problem. And after that pull, as I let off, I started to hear like a weird kind of noise. It sounded exactly like a tooth was missing, like on the pinion or something. It was just kind of like a clunky noise. I was getting it in all gears, even while coasting. So I got home, pulled the diff cover, and found the pinion lost a few teeth, as you can see in this photo here. I went on Amazon. I found the first set of 373s in stock that I could get one dayed. I picked up a set of Motive 373s. If they're good, I don't know. I heard of Motive before. I don't know what was in there before because the gears came with the rear. I know they're 373s because I counted the teeth. The posi and everything's fine. So the plan is I'm gonna pull the axles, swap the ring and pinion. I have a solid spacer in there, so I don't have to worry about a crush sleeve. So I'm just kind of hoping that the 373s are, similar enough to the ones that were in there where I'm not gonna have a problem. I'm gonna set them up pretty much with the exact same shims that are in there now, measure the backlash, check the pattern, and then just fill it up and we'll go for a drive. If I didn't wheel hop the thing like that, probably would have been all right, because as far as driving it on the street, there's just really no traction at all. So it really doesn't hook enough to actually brake. I think the only reason I lost a tooth after I did that final pull was because it probably cracked the pinion after I got all that hop, and then eventually it just gave way once I was driving home. So right now I'm heading back home. I'm gonna pull the wheels, the axles, drop the drive shaft down. Hopefully I could get in there with the exhaust to zip the pinion nut off. We'll pull all that out, and by the time that's all done, hopefully my gears are gonna be here and we could get this thing set up. I was so optimistic. All right, so where I left off, I said I was gonna go home, pull the rear apart, and swap that set of Motive gears that I ordered in. Well, everything was going pretty well. I got home, the gears were actually here. I pulled the wheels, the rear brakes, and I already had the cover pulled off from the night before. I was going to go and pull the axle tubes. To do that, you have to remove the pin that's going through the center of the diff. It's held in place by a little 8mm like shaft screw that goes through. You remove that, pin comes out. You can take this, push the axles in, pull the C clips out, and get the axles out. So what happened was that little bolt snapped, and when that happened, it unleashed a whole bunch of trouble. So the bolt snapped, I couldn't get the pin out. I was laying under the car for maybe 2 hours with the pick, just trying to pick at it and get it to, thread out. That wasn't working. Eventually I just gave up and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the junkyard, get a new axle, or get a used axle from an LS1 car and swap it in, being it was only around like 250 bucks for a whole axle. Posi with stock 342 gears. So I pulled the whole rear out. I was planning to go and pick a rear up when eventually I just got impatient. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go and rebuild this thing. I went on Craigslist and I was able to find a 10-bolt Eaton torsion style posi, brand new in box, never installed on the car. I called up the guy in the listing, and it turns out it was somebody that I actually knew. He recognized my voice. He was like, hey, aren't you the guy with the blue Camaro that goes to Raceway Park? And I'm like, yeah. And then I recognized his voice. He has a Camaro as well. And he ended up giving me a great deal on the thing. I paid $280 for it, and if you're gonna go order it on Summit, it's well over 400 bucks. So I was able to get a deal on that. I didn't bother getting the new axle. I ended up cutting a slot in the carrier, banging the pin out. I got the axles out, got the old carrier out, had my new gears, went to install them, and I realized they were wrong. Basically, I got a thick gear set, so it wasn't gonna work. The carrier was pushed way over to one side. I'm guessing they were designed for a different kind of 10-bolt carrier. Regardless, they were useless to me. I boxed them up, got ready to send them back to Summit, and then I went looking around the basement and I was able to find my old 411 gears that I had at this car at one point. So I am still working on the rear. I actually just finished it up last night. I spent a lot of time getting the backlash and the pinion depth. Everything is perfect as I could get it. Just because 410s really aren't a good idea in a 10 bolt. Not so much the ratio, but just because of the teeth count on the pinion, you have less teeth, so obviously you're gonna have less contact and it's gonna be a little bit weaker. But I'm trying to fix this thing as cheap as I can, and I had them laying around, so I just threw them in there. The good thing is the cars can even have less traction now, so maybe it's really not gonna hook and not actually blow up. As you saw from that video, I'm pretty sure it was the wheel hop that was the big contributing factor to this thing actually breaking a tooth. A lot of you guys are probably wondering, why even bother repairing the 10 bolt? Why pull it out, repair it, and go through all that work putting it back in? Well, I was actually looking at getting a Hawks 8.8. That's most likely the rear I'm gonna go with. It's really, really strong, and I can actually reuse my stock drive shaft. It already has the relocation brackets for the control arms fitted onto it. So it just seems like the best bet for me. Then you could get it with either 31 or 33 spline axles. I'll probably go for the little stronger 33s. I actually messaged them on Instagram, and they told me from the time of order, being they're custom made per order, it would have been 4 to 8 weeks before the thing was actually completed and shipped to my door. I called them up a few days later. They said the time is actually like as of right now, realistically around 4 to 6 weeks. We're going into September right now. September, October is really the best time to drive these cars. And I just didn't want to sit in the driveway and then the axle comes in, I'm putting it in November, right when it starts getting cold and the snow starts coming. So I'm fixing the 10 bolt for now. Next year, I do plan on upgrading to an 8.8. I'll be able to order it as I'm still driving the car, which is great. But now that you guys are up to date on the situation, let's go inside and I'll show you what I'm doing with the rear. All right, so here's the rear all assembled with the 410s. Now, I spent the last few days just dialing in the mesh pattern here. I didn't want to put the thing in and have any whine or anything like that. I did go and put a new pinion bearing in. I got that all shimmed to the correct depth. Got the preload set to 20 inch-pounds. On the pinion down here, just because it is a new bearing, so I want it a little bit tighter. Got the backlash at 8 thousandths. And huge shout out to username Big Gearhead on thirdgen.org, because he helped me with getting this pattern dialed in. Now, I know how to set everything up as far as shimming the carrier, how to adjust the backlash, you know, shimming the pinion, stuff like that. But as far as reading the pattern, I'm really not too confident about that. So pretty much the last few days, I would make adjustments, post a pattern on there. He would take a look at it, tell me to add or remove shims, and I just been doing that back and forth for the last few days. But I finally got it dialed in where the pattern is pretty nice. These are used gears, so you don't want to look at the drive side. You pretty much want to go by the coast. And as you can see, you have a nice uniform pattern on the coast side of the gear, so this thing is pretty much good to go. You can see my brand new Eaton carrier in here. I just have to slip the axles in and then pop in the C-clips, and then this piece just goes right in here, and a snap ring holds that in place, so you don't have that stupid pin anymore. So that's where I'm at with the rear end. As I said, it is Thursday. I hope to have this thing back in by the weekend. Between today and tomorrow, I'm gonna just get the seals in, axles, try to finish everything up so it's ready to go back into the car. I didn't really film too much of actually working on it, just because I wasn't expecting this to happen. So I'm probably gonna make a big video out of it. Once I do go to the 8.8, I'll show you how to pull the rear, and we'll do a whole walkthrough on installing the 8.8. Oh, and we take a closer look over here, you can see we do have a little rubber residue from when I was doing that burnout. And the great thing is I have there's rubber on both sides. So yeah, the 30-year-old oar berm is actually still working. Oh, and here's the pinion that I pulled out. You can see it lost one tooth, and then that other one over here pretty much just got chipped. And then there's the tooth. And then here's the old Auburn carrier that I had to cut. You can see over here is where I cut a notch and then I hammered the pin through. I know I could have went in here with a drill and drilled the pin out. I didn't have any good drill bits. I really didn't feel like sitting here and drilling that through. I'm assuming that's going to be a really hard metal to try to get through. So for me, it was just easier to pick something up. I mean, this is an original Auburn anyway. You can see it's got 1987 stamped right onto the casing. All right, guys, but I think that's going to do it for this video. This is really just an update video to tell you guys what's going on. And that, yeah, I did blow the 10 volts up, but I'll have it up and running in a few days. Next week, I should have another video out for you guys. I actually was able to pick up an original black headliner for the car because my gray one in there, it's been sagging for so long, it just got worse and worse. Plus, when I went to the black interior, I never actually changed the headliner. So I actually picked up an original black one from the same guys that I got the diff from. So I'm gonna be installing that. Before I put it in though, I think I'm just gonna hit the back with some fiberglass resin just to stiffen the thing up because they're really, really flimsy, especially since it's so old. If you don't follow me on Instagram, link is gonna be in the description as always. I was posting little update photos as I was actually pulling the rear and pretty much right when the thing blew up. So if you want the inside scoop of what's going on with the car, before videos come out, be sure to follow me on there. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.